If you like this podcast and would like to support us, please rate, comment, and subscribe.
And also, please subscribe to our YouTube channel.
And now it's time to get a unique slant on current events from your favorite half-Asian couple. Get ready to know what's happening in the world today with your hosts, Shaine and Nico.
Hello everybody. What's going on? I am Shaine.
And I'm Nico.
And for this episode of What's Happening, we had Ian Miles Cheong on. We wanted to talk to him about Article 13 specifically, and also Article 11, but mainly Article 13, which it's especially important because that whole thing is basically a big knockout punch for internet freedom under the guise of copyright laws.
Yep, and this is in regards to the EU, by the way.
Yeah, the EU, they're not doing so well when it comes to freedom. And this is another prime example of it. So, again, we just wanted to have Ian to talk about this and to also give our thoughts on it as well. So, anyway, without any further delay, here is Ian Miles Cheong. And before we get started, you can buy us a coffee at ko-fi.com/Hapu or on Patreon at patreon.com/Hapu. Or you can donate to our PayPal at paypal.me/Hapu. Or you can buy a t-shirt and other merchandise at teespring.com/stores/Hapu.
You can also follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Petite Nikoko. And you can follow Shaine at Shaine Scalf. Also, you can support us by subscribing to our channel on YouTube at youtube.com/c/Hapu. All of the links for all the things we discussed will be in the description.
All right, we are here with Ian Miles Cheong. How are you today?
I'm good today. How are you?
All right. So we wanted you to come on the show because we wanted to talk about Article 13.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that you tweeted about it because you're actually the first person that I saw even remotely, talk about it or whatever.
Yeah.
Because everyone else was talking about the Mueller thing and and whatever news was happening too. But
Juicy
the article,
Smollett. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the other one.
Yeah.
But this one kind of just, I guess, flew under the radar for some people, or they just didn't even know about it.
Yeah.
So can you kind of just give an overview of exactly what that whole thing is?
Okay, so Article 13, if you've seen some YouTubers talk about it, they would make it seem as if it only affects memes, right? The idea that the EU is banning memes. That's just scratching the surface, right? What Article 13 actually is, it's a broad sweeping law. There's Article 13 and then there's I think Article 11, and together, right, it was proposed at the time, and now it's actually legislation. The idea is that it's supposed to protect copyrights for independent creators, but the truth is that it's being pushed by the recording industries, the movie industry, the music industry, and so on. And what this means essentially is that you won't be able to use copyrighted material in your content. So there's no such thing as fair use anymore, at least not in the European Union. And now you might be thinking, oh, it's just EU, right? Well, much of the traffic on the internet, like half of it comes to the EU. The other half would obviously be America. So this means that the internet's going to be segregated into, either it's going to be segregated into two, meaning like there's going to be the free internet, meaning America and Australia and, Asia, and then there's going to be European Union, right? So that's a bad thing now. Regardless of all that, what it actually does is that it bans memes, first of all, meaning that there's no derivative content. So memes are derivative content, so you can't have that. So you can't take a screenshot of say Seinfeld or something, like a GIF, right? You can't use that, and you can't also do like YouTube videos because YouTube videos use a lot of copyrighted content, right? So you can't be using other people's videos, can't be using footage, can't be taking screenshots from video games, nothing like that. Even websites are not exempt from this. So let's say you're one of those YouTubers who likes to read websites, news websites. Say you're Tim Pool, you're reading Vox.com or something, or maybe you're reading the BBC. Better example, right? Because Vox, I doubt they'd actually take actions against this because they're based in America. But the BBC might, right? They have to, by law, they would have to shut you down for using their content. So websites like YouTube and Twitch, they won't be able to function the way they do currently. So, you'd have to have people basically asking developers, hey, can I use footage from your video game to, to run my stream? There's going to be all that stuff. And also there, one of the, I think Article 11 is an upload filter. So websites like YouTube will have to implement an upload filter that you can only use, meaning that when you upload something, they're going to have to look at it and determine if it's okay to go forward with, right? So there's none of that. So this thing, it affects everything. You might be thinking, oh, it's only going to affect memes. No, not really. And you might be thinking from the consumer side of things, well, can't you just use a VPN? No, because if you're in the European Union, and you're a YouTuber, well, you can't run your channel anymore, right? So you won't be able to get PewDiePie. He'd have to move to America, for example, if he wants to keep making content. That's even if YouTube's still around. Also, it affects things like art, game mods. Game mods use derivative content, right? You're editing a video game. Well, you can't do that under Article 13. So that's the gist of it.
So, like you're saying, I guess it just affects the EU. So anyone or any YouTuber or anyone like that who, how in some videos when they do have other people's content, they'll have like, such and such does not belong to me. It belongs to the creators or whoever, like especially if music or whatever. They'll say this belongs to so and so. Like they can't even do that anymore. Or
you can't even do that anymore because the law says that they have to pay a link tax. So even Google won't be able to function in the EU anymore because Google is nothing but links, right? The whole website is just based on links, but searching for things. They have to pay something called link tax. So if you want to link to a website, you got to pay a tax for that. They get a cut. Now, many news organizations like this because they're losing their traffic to Google News, right? They're losing their traffic to YouTubers. So a lot of news organizations are actually backing this thing up, at least in the European Union. In America, obviously, they're not going to do that because it's against the First Amendment, right? But in the EU, they want money, so that's how it goes. And this is it's designed as a way to return creative control, to the music and recording industries. That's why it's being pushed forward. And not a lot of countries want this either. I mean, Hungary opposes it because, again, it's against freedom of speech. It's against creative expression. But France wants it because that's where all the recording industries are. It's pretty bad.
Yeah. Now, I don't know if it's similar or anything like that, but it kind of reminds me of that whole Napster thing and how, when people were downloading music, I guess illegally or whatever. And I think Metallica was like the big band or whatever. They were saying, yeah, we don't want that happening. We want to get paid for our, content, whatever. Yep. Would you say that's kind of a similar aspect of this happening, or is that like kind of far-fetched? Or
it's a similar aspect. In fact, this is worse. This is a lot worse because with that one, you're downloading pirated songs. You're downloading songs that you don't own. You're not paying for them. You're just basically copying files. Now, it's not theft. It's piracy. It's a big difference between piracy and theft. Yeah. But it at the end of the day, they're not getting money for their productions, right? That's why people were using Napster because it's easy to download songs. It's cheaper than buying a CD. CDs are expensive, $16 per piece, right? And then afterwards, iTunes came in, and Spotify and all these other companies, and they made a new model for it. And the recording industries hate that also, but they can't really fight against it because that's where the future is, right? That's where the present is, even. Yeah. So they resolved that. Right? That was resolved. Now artists get paid per click, essentially. So if you listen to a song on Spotify, the artist is going to get a cut. He's going to get a few cents or something. So that's fine. But this is a lot worse than that because this means that on YouTube, first of all, you got the upload filter. So you can't just upload something and expect it to go live. You can't monetize that immediately. You have to wait for YouTube to watch it. And this is just not feasible, right? You can't, there are literally millions of videos being uploaded every single day. And, YouTube, no matter how many people it employs, won't be able to watch every single video. So that site's going to die. Right. And now you might be thinking, haha, YouTube's dead, Google's dead. But you're a fucking moron if you think that, because they're actually on the right side here. This is more than just YouTube. This is the whole internet. This doesn't just affect video streaming websites like Twitch or YouTube. It affects everything, even a blog. Let's say you have you're running a blog on, say, Blogspot, or maybe you own your own blog, right? Your own website, your own server. If you want to link to another website, you have to pay a link tax. Now, if you're a big company, say you're Time Warner or something, you can't afford that, right? It's not a big deal to you. You just paid $1 million, whatever, no big deal, right? But if you're like a random blogger, you can't afford that. So you can't afford to link to other people's sites. This is the death of social media also. Facebook, obviously you won't be able to link to anything on Facebook. You can't link to anything on Twitter. They'd have to kill link sharing. This hurts creators first and foremost, right? You won't be able to upload images onto Twitter anymore. You can't post GIF replies. None of that.
So would this be similar to like net neutrality here? Because they're kind of doing that too here, but I don't know if that's similar as well, where a lot of content creators are for or against it. But it seems like this is kind of getting.
This is worse.
I guess there's a lot of backlash to this. It seems like.
This is a lot worse because with net neutrality, all that means, I mean, in practical terms, is that service providers like AT&T, Verizon, and so forth, even Google, right, Google Fiber, it just means that they'll be able to create regular pipes and fast pipes. So if you pay extra, you get to download things faster, right? Or there'll be a data cap or something. Net neutrality was originally designed to prevent them from basically throttling your internet, right? So your internet's not going to be as slow as it is in, say, in Australia. And Telstra, Telstra is the Australian internet service provider, the main one. They throttle their internet. They use a data cap, so you can only download, say, 30 gigabytes per month or something like that. It's terrible, right? And because they have no competition, they can do that. In America, you can't do that because of net neutrality, and now because net neutrality, the whole thing has been shot down. They can technically do it, but because there's so much competition in America, no ISP is going to do that because it's just a bad business decision. They get so much backlash for that, right? So. Yeah. Net neutrality, in my opinion, my personal opinion, is that it's not that big a deal. It just gives more power to the people who run ISPs, gives them more control, says that the government can't control what you do. That's just all it is, right? That's them shooting down net neutrality. I'm like, I on the one hand, it's like, okay, it's bad that they can control this, but on the other hand, it's like, does it actually affect anything? No, not really, right? But in Europe, it's the other way around. It's the state itself that's determining what you can or cannot share. That's the big problem. So it's a lot worse than net neutrality. It's a lot worse than SOPA or all these other things that they try to push forward. And I think the reason why not a lot of people are talking about it is because, most of the internet's in America. Most people who are online are in America, and they don't really care. It doesn't really affect them, or at least they don't think it affects them. But it definitely affects Europeans. So imagine if in America, you were not allowed to share videos. You're not allowed to share pictures. You take a picture of yourself, and in the background, there's a Taco Bell logo. Well, you can't share that anymore. That's illegal. You'd have to blur it out.
Man, that's crazy. I can't believe that's actually someone's actually think that's a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's not like, oh, I'm sorry, I had that Taco Bell behind me. I had no idea. Oops.
Yep.
Or I didn't even think anything of it.
Yep.
So I was reading a BBC article about this, and because I know you were talking about how memes are like one of the big things in this whole thing. Well, in the article, it says that memes are excluded from this. Because in the article, it says it was Article 13 which prompted fears over the future of memes and GIFs, stills, animated or short video clips that go viral, since they mainly rely on the copyrighted scenes from TV and film. Critics claimed Article 13 would have made it nearly impossible to upload even the tiniest part of a copyrighted work to Facebook, YouTube, or any other site. However, specific tweaks to the law made earlier this year made memes safe for purposes of quotation, criticism, review, caricature, parody, and pastiche, I guess. Mm-hmm. The European Parliament said that memes would be specifically excluded from the directive, although it was unclear how tech firms, would be able to enforce that rule with a blanket filter.
Precisely.
So, yeah. So to me, it sounds like, I don't know. There's some language there that makes it seem like, okay, well, I don't know. It seems like it's kind of vague.
Yeah.
Like, oh,
it's vague enough.
Yeah, right?
And that's where the problem is. It's because the language is so vague. It's that they can choose to enforce it however they want to, right? So, they'll say memes are fine. It's legal to share memes. So I think sites like Twitter will be okay. But then, you're going to have instances where people are sharing full movies or something, or maybe not even a full movie, but like say they share like 3 minutes of a movie, right? And they want to criticize it. Say Red Letter Media is reviewing Star Wars, right? You won't be able to do that. Let's just say they decide that, we don't want this review up. We can just have it pulled down, because right now they can't do that, but if the upload filter, the way that they determine what is allowed and what isn't, that's going to be impossible. So websites like YouTube and Twitch and so on will have to, they're required to implement technology that prevents people from sharing these things. So that's where the issue lies, right? So right now, yeah, you can share a picture or meme. That's easy on Twitter, right? But on YouTube, how do you determine this? Right now, if you were to upload a full movie, you can always report it. If someone uploads a full movie, you can just click report. If you're like you're working at say Warner Brothers, or you're working at Fox TV or something, you can just have it taken down. You just use a manual report. But this one requires the websites themselves to be held accountable for it. So this completely goes against the Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act, right? That's in America. It means that websites are not responsible for what people post on them. So if some guy were to post, say, the New Zealand video, right, on YouTube, right now YouTube is not liable for that because they're not responsible for the content. But under this new law, it says that they are. So that makes it very difficult for websites like YouTube or Twitch or even smaller websites to even operate, because now they're responsible for everything people that post online. So someone could easily come along and post some illegal video, and they get taken down for it. Like the whole website gets taken down because of that.
Well, I know websites like LiveLeak, who, I mean, you can pretty much put whatever you want on there, including people dying.
Yeah.
I guess it would affect those type of websites as well.
It would, yeah. They won't be able to operate, at least not in the European Union. And the way that like we've had a taste so far of the European Union laws. Right now, we're talking about Article 11, Article 13. Before there was a law, as a privacy law. I forget what it's called exactly, but this privacy law says that websites cannot collect information about you without notifying you of the fact that they collect this information, and they have to provide you receipts if you ask for it, right? So a lot of websites, especially American websites, are now blocked in the EU because they don't have the systems that allow them to collect this data. So if you're in the European Union and you try to access certain websites, certain news sites especially, you won't be able to visit them. They'll tell you that this site is not available for viewing outside of the United States. So imagine that. Imagine what we're going to see is a partitioned internet where half the websites that you visit online won't be available to you if you're in the European Union. And obviously, if you're like a YouTuber, well, you won't even be able to upload videos because the site's not available to you.
So I wanted to go back to the link tax that you were talking about earlier. Is there any specific numbers that have been flown around that they're saying you need to pay this amount of tax, or has there nothing been said?
Nothing's really been set in stone. I think it's per country, because these are guidelines. Thing that you have to, that I forgot to mention earlier, is that the European Union requires every country to implement this, but how they choose to implement it is up to them. So it's a mess, right? So it's a mess.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
This seems like the whole Brexit thing, because Brexit's like a whole mess too. What's going on over there?
Yeah. They had a delay recently.
Yeah. So I also kind of wanted to just highlight some, I guess, in the same BBC article, they talk about some celebrities who are for it and against it. They said that high-profile figures who have campaigned against the EU copyright directive include Wyclef Jean and web inventor Sir Tim Berners-Lee, while Debbie Harry and Sir Paul McCartney have been among its supporters. Which, Paul McCartney, with any government regulation, I'm like, whatever. His name should just pop in there all the time whenever government regulation comes in.
He's authoritarian, and he's also a musician. He's very pro music industry. He's a very rich guy, makes his living from the music industry. So
Wyclef Jean's also a musician, as far as I know.
Yeah, he is. But the difference is that I think Wyclef Jean is more of like an artist, and Paul McCartney is more of like he's kind of like an industrialist these days.
So how did this whole thing start? Like, when did this whole thing just come about in terms of like why they're trying to push this law?
It came about a few years ago. It was shot down back then, right? Whenever it was proposed, it got shot down. But they kept trying over and over and over again. It got to a point where, to my understanding, this is something that was written on the EFF. It was by I think it was a German Green Party member. She's been, I can't remember her name, but she's been writing about this stuff pretty heavily. She alerted people to it. She said that basically, if you are in, like a member of the European Parliament, they have voting blocks over there, right? So you're a member of a party, say you're a member of the Christian liberals or something in Germany. They expect you to vote like that, because if you don't vote in in accordance with the block, they will blacklist you and you won't get reelected. So that's how they pushed it through. The lobbyists basically got to the heads and said, hey, we're going to throw however much money into your campaign. You want to campaign for reelection, we're going to give you a bunch of money. And now you got to get all your buddies, all your friends, all of the people who work with you to vote in line with you. So that's how they pushed it forward. And now many people are not very happy about this. But most people, most politicians, I would say, don't even know what they're voting for. In fact, there's an article recently stating that half the people who voted in favor of this law don't even know what it is, or that they pressed the wrong button. They literally pressed the wrong button to vote.
Wow.
Yeah, they're idiots. So these are the people whose future, our future rests in their hands.
Yeah, so you're talking about the EFF, and you literally just look up in the Google, whatever, EFF Article 13,
Yep.
and literally the first two headlines from them would be, artists against Article 13. When big tech and big content make a meal of creators, it doesn't matter who gets the bigger piece. And then one that's before that, from February 13th, it says the final version of the EU's copyright directive is the worst one yet.
Yep.
So yeah, they were definitely kind of telling people that you better, we need to keep our eye on this, because it seems like they're really trying to push this down our throats.
Yep, they are. And because there's a lot of big money behind it, it's very difficult to fight against. And what really disappoints me personally is the fact that, when SOPA was happening, remember SOPA? There was an internet blackout and every website just like replaced their front page with like a black page, right? If you went to reddit.com, you just see a black screen. None of the pages were accessible. They were just a bunch of links informing people about SOPA and telling them, go call your congressperson and tell them to shoot this thing down. And that's why they got rid of SOPA. And SOPA was a bad deal, right? But now with this thing, there's no such boycott campaign, and makes me ask questions like, why is it that the only company that's against this is YouTube and Google? Everybody else just seems okay about it. Why is Reddit not really talking about it? Like obviously Redditors talk about it, but why is Reddit as an organization, why are they not talking about it? Is it because they're owned by Condé Nast? Could that be it? It's probably it, That's just a conspiracy theory that I have going, but that seems like a very likely thing.
Yeah, from one of the articles from EFF that I mentioned before, they talk about Article 11,
Yep.
which allows news sites to decide who can link to their stories, which you kind of alluded to before, and charge for permission to do so, has also been worsened. The final text clarifies that any link that contains more than single words or very short extracts from a news story must be licensed, with no exceptions for non-commercial users, nonprofit projects, or even personal websites with ads or other income sources, no matter how small. So it's like you can't even use not even a millisecond of something now. You have to get permission, you have to pay. And you're also talking about how if like Red Letter Media did a review of Star Wars, which they've done before. But whenever they use clips, they use usually the trailers.
Yep.
So they don't actually use like movie clips. They just usually use the trailer, or whatever. But I guess you can't even do that anymore.
No, because it's commercial.
Yeah.
Because they're making money out of other people's commercials, essentially. That's going to be the argument in court, right? That, these guys are monetizing our content, so we can't let that happen. It's really bad. I mean, honestly, it's really bad. And if you want to be, you can be like 100% libertarian or something and be like, it's corporations own these things. You can't be that person. But at the end of the day, it's like, what are you talking about? You're not defending the people. You're just defending corporations, and corporations don't give a fuck about you. So we have to, as libertarians, I wish more libertarians to speak up about this. I see them, and in some cases, it's fine to defend a corporation. But, when a corporation has its rights infringed or something, like clearly infringed, but this is people, right? The vast majority of the human race is not benefiting from this law. It's going to hurt people.
I think also with corporations, and in regards to what you said about libertarians, is a lot of the times those corporations who are like lobbying for this stuff wouldn't have this type of power if they weren't also in connect with the government, especially like the really big websites.
Yeah, like Google and
Yeah. So that's what I think libertarians need to speak out about, because it is a government issue.
It is.
Yeah, I mean, corporations are kind of lobbying, I guess, but then the government votes for it and says, yeah, we'll totally agree with that. We'll totally do what you want us to do, because I guess they give politicians money or whatever. Hey, if you do this, we'll give you such and such amount of money and lobby, for your next election.
Yeah.
It's bullshit. Yeah.
It is. And so this is not even like they're not gonna give you money, as a candidate. What they will do is they'll say, "Hey, we're gonna build a new studio in your city, right? So or in your country, right? We're moving our base of studios into your country. So we want a tax break first of all, and also you gotta support Article 13." And now, if you're thinking, you're gonna get a lot of tax dollars from these guys, right? You're thinking, oh, okay, I'll just do that. But then at the same time, you're just screwing everybody else who lives there.
Yeah, it's yeah, that's good points though that, we talk about, you know, because there are, libertarians, especially since we're libertarians, say, oh yeah, corporations can, they do whatever they want. It's their property or whatever. But then it's one of those fine lines where you kind of have to think, okay, well, they can do that. But then here's an example, like a prime example of corporations and government kind of working together to fuck over the people.
Yep.
So it's kind of like,
It's not a very libertarian position.
yeah,
To be honest.
It's not.
yeah,
You
yeah.
just at that point you're just replacing the government with the corporations.
Yeah, it's one of those things too where you have to, if we got, I guess we're kind of talking about libertarian stuff now, but if you got rid of the government, but then the corporations started getting bigger and bigger and bigger to the point where they're the ones that rule everything over. I mean, there's movies of this, where, corporations control everything, but then they become the government,
RoboCop.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
That's exactly what's happening, and the fact that people don't see this, because people are right to be cautious about the government. You don't want a government that's too powerful, a government that can take away your civil liberties, right? You don't want that.
Yeah.
But you probably don't want a corporation that has that power either. It doesn't matter if you're paying taxes through them or if you're not. At the end of the day, they're the ones determining what freedoms you have, and that's a bad thing. That's a really bad thing.
Yeah, it seems too that whenever a corporation and the government are ever linked together, like Facebook, for example, Facebook's kind of do that, banning, like pages, whatever that do so-called conspiracy theories or whatever, whatever political things they don't like, they'll ban them or whatever. I mean, like, with Alex Jones, whatever.
Yeah.
It was like the prime example of that, just being completely unpersoned. We don't like your politics, fuck off, that kind of thing.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, Facebook is totally intertwined with government. Even if they start out as a small company, now they're like one of the biggest social networks out there. Same with Twitter. I mean,
Yep.
when Jack Dorsey and I can't remember her name that was on the Joe Rogan Experience with Tim Pool.
Yeah.
And it's, now they're doing things like, oh, we're seriously considering censoring or even censoring Donald Trump's tweets. And it's like, what? He's the
insane.
fucking president. Yes, he's the president of the United States. Like, okay, we get it. You don't like Donald Trump, great. But it's like, okay, well, are you going to do the same thing for the next president? You can't just do one for, one and then the other one's, oh yeah, they're totally fine because we agree with their politics. It's like, well, you can't pick and choose here,
No, you can't. That's the whole point of freedom of speech, is that everybody has a voice, right? Not just one person or one political party. Everybody's got a voice. Otherwise, it's what separates America from China, right? In China, you got one political party. Now, if anybody else were to try to come along, first of all, they get censored. Secondly, they get arrested, right? So you can't have that. This is why the Federalist Papers were written. It's to give people a voice.
Yeah. So to kind of go back to the Article 13, what would be the next steps for this in terms of like what the government's, because they voted for it. So what would be the next step then for this? Like, is it implemented, or is there ways that maybe people can actually fight this to where their voice can actually be heard and they can do something about it?
They can do something about it. Yeah, they can do something about it. First of all, they need to vote out all the people who voted for it. That's the first thing they need to do. And European Parliament elections are coming up, I think, in June. So go vote for a populist. That's my suggestion. Don't vote for these assholes who are part of the mainstream parties. Don't vote for them. Vote these guys out, right? They're not doing good for you. They're taking away your freedoms. Vote them out. Get better people in. Get people who actually care about the public. Get those guys in. I mean, this is not just a matter of protecting your civil liberties or your ability to post memes online. This is also, like the other guys that you could vote for, they're anti-immigration, and you probably don't want your country to be overrun by refugees. So it's good consideration. Think about who you're voting for. Don't just think along party lines. Don't just think, oh well, if I don't vote for this guy, the other guy's going to win. Don't think like that. Vote for people who actually care about you. In Europe, it's a lot easier because they don't have a two-party system in most countries, right? Except in the UK. But every other country, just vote for somebody who actually cares about, who will defend your rights as a civilian, as a citizen of your country, right? Yeah. That's my suggestion.
All right. Well, we'll leave it there. Thank you so much, Ian, for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Anytime. Thanks for having me on.
All right. Thanks again, Ian, for joining us. For everyone, you can follow him on social media at Still Gray. All of his links will be in the description.
And I guess goodbye now?
Yeah.
Now you know what's happening. Thanks for listening. If you want to support the show, go to hapasupremacy.com and follow our social media. Have a great day.